I have a surprise guest coming on. So excited for you guys to be able to meet Shemane Nugent. Of course, Spenser will be here. And I think Be Free with Mary is going to be here with us as well. Big thank you to Spenser for pulling this off.
Hey guys.
Hi, Shemane. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I've never done this on TikTok.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, yeah, first time even. That is even more special. So welcome, Shemane, to our healing family. We've been together for 1 year, and this is just extremely special. I've been following you since 2020 through Dr. Jason Dean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's great. I got banned on TikTok. I'm permanently banned on Twitter or X.
Okay.
So I have a show on Real America's Voice where I have the First Amendment. And but I'd love to be able to get back on some other social media platforms and have these conversations. So I'm grateful for you guys.
Oh, we are grateful for you. And I think the only reason why I have not been banned is because I stay within the health realm. I found it's very important that we get people healthy so they can step into their purpose because our country needs everybody. So I've stayed kind of in this lane and it's kept me safe so far, but Mary and Spenser have also been banned.
I'm a little controversial, the land of the misfits, but that's what Be Free is about. Like, we need to be free from this entire system, from the medical BS that goes on, from your earlier post, Spenser, about our rights to bear arms, about all those things. It's about waking up the masses and being free.
Yep. Absolutely.
If you guys can hear me, bear with me, guys. I'm trying to get some Wi-Fi. I'm headed to my house. There was no Wi-Fi at the college, so.
Okay.
And B, proceed. I digress.
Wonderful. Well, Shemane, how did you and Spenser connect?
I don't know. I mean, through Instagram. I don't know if I reached out to him or vice versa, but what I try to do is when I see somebody who is posting things that I'm aligned with or that are positive or health related or First or Second Amendment related, I message them and say, thank you for what you're doing. Because oftentimes we only hear the negative and we seldom hear the positive. And I want to align with people like you talk about. Maybe we're the misfits, but we have to speak up. I suppose we have to do the dance, do the tango and play by their rules. But now more than ever, I am very faith filled. And I talk about Esther 4:14 a lot. We were born for such a time as this. And if we stay silent, we and our families will perish. So we need to stand up or this world, this country is really going to change. And look at what's happened the past couple of years. So I think now more than ever, we need to voice our opinions. I'll do the dance. I'm a good dancer. I'll do the dance and I'll follow the rules kind of. But I'm just really, my being here is really because I got sick and almost died from toxic mold. So that's why I was really excited when Spenser invited me to join you both. That's been a passion of mine that I'm the same way. I want to encourage people to get healthy and stay healthy. And they don't even realize, a lot of people don't realize that toxic mold could be the cause of their illnesses.
That's right. And leading to cancer, very serious connection there that I have found. And so it's even more important why we do all need to connect and start raising our voices about this and teaching one another what is helping us to balance and heal.
Yeah.
And for those of you, please invite your friends who don't know we're live. This was an unplanned, very spontaneous live today. Typically, like tomorrow, I have Joe Horn from Skywatch TV on, and I did a couple day announcement, right? So people would know. But we did this spontaneous. So for all of you who are on, please invite your friends to join.
I want to share.
Yeah. So hit an arrow. Okay. So Down on the bottom right side of your screen, there's an arrow that kind of turns off to the side. If you hit that, you will get all of your friends, and you can start doing about 15 friends at a time. So we can all kind of do that while we're live right now. And
All right.
get people in here, because we're going to have a lot of fun and a great conversation.
Guess who the first one that came up? Dr. Jason Dean.
Invite him. Because he doesn't know I'm on here. I tried to, I haven't, I should have texted him when I started. I was going to text him and say, guess what? I finally got brave, because he used to invite me on all the time when I was on Twitter. And I was like, no way, I'm too shy. I'm not getting on there. And then God just spoke to me one day and moved me out of that.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
It was time. I always say, for such a time as now. Just like you said.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'd love to have you both on my, I'm going to try and do these more. I'd love to have you both on mine. Are you both on Instagram as well?
I am. And you just did Mary last night.
I'm sorry?
Mary, you're on Instagram too.
Yes, I went off of Epperberg's platforms because I have strong feelings about him. But if we thought we were going to connect on Instagram, I thought it was worth getting back on there. Apparently, somehow I didn't know how to delete my account, so it was still there. Be Free with Mary B 3.0.
Gotcha.
Yes.
But I suppose we can use the bad for good, right?
That's right. My husband just got permanently banned on Facebook.
Oh, congratulations. That's an honor. Yeah, I've been hanging on by the skin of my teeth here on this platform, but by God's grace. So,
You know what's really a shame is Spencer and I were talking about this, and he's been really, he mentioned that interview that Ted did with Pierce Morgan a few years ago inspired him, and we need to speak out, and so many people are afraid to. So we've got to, figure out the parameters, what we can get away with and what we can't. But we've got to encourage other people to speak out and don't be afraid, because, the worst that could happen is, yes, we get banned. And I do understand that a lot of people are using social media for business. I get that. But now more than ever, we have got to be Esthers. We've got to be bold and brave. And, they're exciting times. So much is changing. But on the other hand, so much is changing. We've got to really be careful about what's to come. And I feel like I've watched my husband. I'm just assuming you guys know who my husband is, but I've watched him for years. Just be.
We're 80s girls, Shemane. We're
What
80s
now?
Girls. We're 80s girls, so we definitely know you have
Yeah, but
this.
you want to hear something funny? I didn't listen to his music. When I met him, if my life depended on it, I couldn't have told you one of his songs. I'm an 80s girl too, but I didn't care for rock and roll.
Yeah, that's great.
But my favorite sound out of his mouth is.
You've heard that before, right? That I think
Love
that
it.
video
Love
is
it. We
viral.
love that term, sheeple.
Yep. What I was going to say is I've learned so much from watching him go through so much. People have told him for years, like even Stranglehold. Everybody in his band, his management, when he wanted to go into the recording studio and record that song, they basically had an intervention with him and said, you can't do that. You can't record a 9-minute song. You can't, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't have a chorus and a hook and this and that. And he let them speak and he goes, are you done? Let's go record it. So I've seen him throughout the criticisms over the years, much of which is false. We just talked about this. He and I just did a Facebook Live. And what Rules for Radicals, the book that Hillary Clinton did her thesis on, what it says in Rules for Radicals is say a lie 3 times about somebody. Keep saying it, repeating it over and over. And the masses will begin to believe it, the sheeple. And the lies that have been said about him, he doesn't have a chance oftentimes to rebut, because back in the day when we used to read the newspaper, the corrections were buried. But his headlines were on the front page on the headlines. And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff, You know what? But I've watched him. It just doesn't bother him anymore. He just took the dogs hunting. So he just does his own thing.
People have to speak out and not care. We have been so socially conditioned to fit into society. Most of my life, I've been weird, and I love weird. Weird is what stands out. Weird sets you apart from everybody else, if that's the label that people want to put on you. And if we conform to social conditioning, we'll keep our mouths shut and not say anything at all. I mean, I live in the state of Illinois, and look, it's going on. We have January 1st, any illegal can be given the right to be police, and all the wanting to turn in or register your big clips, and very few people have done it in comparison to how many people own firearms here. So yay. I know so many people, they're like, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
It takes us coming together and resisting.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
So enough said, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yikes.
I know.
Hey, Spencer.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
I hear you.
Oh, wonderful. What did I miss? I had to rush home.
Just girl talk.
That's right. Girl talk.
We were talking about our hair.
Yeah. Yes. You know, Shemane,
I don't buy it.
I know our followers are going to want to hear a lot about your mold journey. This is a topic that we talk about all the time. We have many who are suffering with mold issues and candida and parasites. And so this is a conversation we have every week. So I know that if you're willing to share about that, that would be something we would be very interested in hearing. And then how you found balance.
Well, thank you. I'd be honored. It's not a journey that I wanted to have. You know, as a little girl, I didn't go, I want to be known as the mold lady. I want to write a book about toxic mold. I want to talk about mold. But I think God puts us in places where, there was that Dirty Dancing movie with Patrick Swayze, and he says, nobody puts baby in a corner. Baby doesn't come out fighting until baby is in a corner. And when we get, put into these places and into situations that we never expected, it causes us to really dig down deep inside. My home that was once featured on MTV Cribs was contaminated with toxic mold. We never saw anything. I was kind of OCD cleaning, but it happened due to faulty building, which is happening more and more because people are just whipping homes together using faulty construction and improper materials, cheap materials. And basically they didn't install the flashing properly. It was pretty much raining between the walls. I was once named Detroit's most physical female. I've been teaching group fitness classes since 1980. And I started getting everything from debilitating migraines to the point where Ted would have to rush me to the hospital. And also I felt like I was having a heart attack. Several times he'd rush me to the hospital. They'd do the chest x-rays and sent me home. And it wasn't until I went to a toxicologist that found out I had 4 different types of mold in my bloodstream. And I was also diagnosed with having pre-emphysema, and I don't smoke. And we literally got to the point where we walked away from our home. We demolished our home. I have a documentary about it. It's, if you go to killerhouse.org, you can watch that, killerhouse.org. It's just a 26-minute video, but I go into way more details because people have always asked me, well, what did you do? How did you recognize it? Well, there's a lot to it. Every mold journey is different, but I talk about a lot of that, about my story and a lot of other people's stories in here. And this book is available on Amazon. And I spent about a year trying to regain my health using alternative or functional medicines. I was doing infrared sauna, vitamin IVs, and oxygen therapy 25 years ago. I would give myself injections of glutathione and histamine. And I changed my diet, realized that chemicals and pesticides are in all of our food and everywhere, from laundry detergent to Kleenex and everything in between. We just had a friend that we love, stay with us. Last week, I've washed I only use non-toxic cleaning soap and laundry soap, and I don't use fabric softener. I cannot get the downy fabric softener smell, even though I've washed the sheets 3 times just because he was sleeping on them. And even walking by the guest room, I can smell it. So I write about a lot of this because it's not just the mold. The Lyme spirochete is very similar to the mold mycotoxin, and it can lay dormant in your organs for months or even years. I did talk about a emotional journey. My life's not perfect. And I talk about some situations in here. The reason why I talk about it is because I have found that women, more especially when we have emotional trauma, that sets us up for more physical trauma. We're more susceptible when our immune system is weakened. Male testosterone, I also discovered, protects the guys a little bit more. We're the ones that have kids and go through all that pain. Thank you, Eve. And Adam had something to do with it. But, guys are a little bit more protected from mold. You could have 2 people living in the same home and one is affected, one is not. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is the MTHR gene, but there's so many other things. Emotional trauma is one of them. So I could talk all day about mold, unfortunately, but I'm so grateful for having this community, for sharing this with you guys. So I'm available anytime to talk about mold.
Hey, gals, does it sound like stuff you've covered before or what? Exactly what she just said.
100% every week,
T.
and especially when I have Blessed Botanicals on. They come on tomorrow night with me, and they healed from Lyme disease and 3 autoimmune diseases. And then her and her husband stepped into their purpose by creating a herbal extract business that is 5-star, and I'm a huge supporter, and they're helping so many heal of the mold. That seems to be the one that is so difficult to eradicate or to balance from, because they say you're never able to get rid of it all, but to find balance with these pathogens and these mycotoxins.
It's like I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I don't travel much anymore. Jet fuel is a huge trigger for me. You might not think, when you're walking on the plane and then they close the doors and that gives me a headache. And then hotels don't, go to the same extents that I do. So if I go on a 3-day trip, that could set me back for a week.
The bombardment, as soon as you start traveling in those planes, a lot of people, it's proven time and time again that acute radiation sicknesses is happening from the radiation on the planes, which is very similar to flu-like symptoms a lot of times. So there's a lot of cross things going on from fungus, mold, candida, frequencies that I think everybody's kind of sleeping on. And we sleep on the physics of medicine a lot, I believe. And all of them come down to the physics. And so I believe everything is charge and discharge. And when we know we have too much positive charge here, it causes necrosis. Our molds can thrive. Our parasites can thrive in this location. There's so much going on. But what I'm noticing from listening to everybody, all of you guys cover things so similarly, and they can be completely different topics, but they all connect and have the exact same protocol at the end. It's always turning back to nature, and it's like, okay, what my body is designed to heal, and what is the physical, electromagnetic or electric or magnetic situation I need to place myself in. And yes, drinking distilled water can be magnetic. It's a completely negative charge, things like that. So when I'm listening to you guys talk about fungus, mold, and candida, I can also at the same time parallel, understand, the physics of that. That makes so much sense. Are you drinking distilled water right there? So,
yeah.
Distilled water as well.
So why do you guys choose distilled water?
I started drinking. I feel better when I drink it. It really comes down to how I feel with it. I know it's removing the heavy metals from my body, and I know that some pathogens thrive in a heavy metal environment.
I started drinking it a long time ago, probably. Here's an experiment you can do. put distilled water down in a bowl for your dog or somebody's dog and put regular tap water or bottled water. The dog will almost always go to the distilled water. That's a great test. You bring food home. Not too long ago, I saw somebody had some chicken. I sat it down to give it to my dog and my dog wouldn't touch it. Raw chicken. And dogs will usually eat raw chicken. Dog wouldn't touch it. I'm like, I don't know where you got that chicken. Don't get it there anymore. So the distilled water, when I started going down that journey and learning about the F word, I won't say it. I don't know what the triggers are for us getting in trouble here. So when I started learning about that, I was just so mind blown by how toxic the F stuff was. Probably over 20 years ago.
Right on.
Yes.
Shemane, and why do you choose distilled?
Well, I have filters. I've got a whole house filter, and it goes through reverse osmosis. It goes through, there's about 6 different levels. And well, we know that we can't trust the municipal water. They put in, they can actually target individual homes. There is arsenic, just a little bit of arsenic, mRNA, VOCs, volatile organic compounds, and pharmaceutical drugs, and so many different things. And I think water is going to be a hot commodity coming up in this next year or so.
Yeah. So when it comes to distilled, rainwater is distilled, right? A lot of people, like our followers, as soon as you look up distilled, it leaches minerals. We've all heard that here. We've all heard it leaches minerals. And I do agree it will leach minerals because it has a completely negative charge. And if we have fortified inorganic minerals piled up in our bodies from supplements that may not necessarily be very organic or they're synthetic, and we think that they're good for us, our body will flush. So I do drink distilled water as a flushing agent, not necessarily for hydration. I'll usually add the salt or something that helps it absorb, or an organic juice to the distilled water when I really want to hydrate and utilize it to that aspect. But yeah, distilled water for flushing for me has been amazing, and it was a game changer. Even led me into looking into urine therapy and laughing about that and having fun with that one.
I went bold today. Did you see I shared 2 stories on urine therapy? So I had candida, very late stages candida years ago, and urine therapy was part of my healing protocol. But every time I tried to speak about it, people would just run. I mean, literally. Or
Okay, tell me about urine therapy.
Here we go.
It's actually shocking how good it is for us, and we do need to get back to it. And it's something that I'll be sharing more. In fact, I'm going to do a live on it, and so I'll invite you on that live when I do it. But yeah, it's full of minerals and it's healing. It's actually antifungal, and
Amino acids.
loaded with amino acids, and
Stem
it's
cells.
well, and that has only been new science talked about in the last 5 years, even though this is an old ancient practice.
Well, when babies are in a mother's belly, they're getting a slow drip of the mother's urine, and you would think that that's very bad, but those stem cells are wonderful. I always want to share this when we talk about the urine therapy. It's still a joke to me. It's still funny because I'm still a little, everything's taboo when you get to that level, but imagine the fountain with the little boy that's peeing into the fountain all over the world. You've seen him. Could that be the fountain of youth, as urine therapy was traditionally known for anti-aging properties? In all these ancient times, it's been removed. It's distilled water. It's a natural vaccine. If you get bit by a snake in the middle of the woods, the closer you are to that snake bite, you might want to try and drink that. If that's all you got, give it a go, because it can be an anti-venom for you, because it's your body reacting to the outside stimulus. There's a lot to urine therapy that I thought was really cool. And again, I thought it was funny that it's like, whoa, that is a very young boy peeing, and the stream is coming out of him into the fountain of youth, possibly. Thought that was a good one. I digress.
And urine is great for our gardens. It's a natural fertilizer. I did that with my straw bale gardening and did the video on it. Just diluting your urine and putting it in your soil, getting all that back in there. Now, somebody else mentioned something very interesting. I don't know the science on it, but they said soaking your seeds that you're going to sprout in your urine, and somehow the seeds know what minerals or nutrients are missing from your urine, and we'll provide those when the plant grows. I thought that's interesting, but there was a study in Nigeria where they began using urine to fertilize, and the crops that were using urine, diluted 3 parts water to 1 part urine, grew 30% better than those who were using these commercial fertilizers. So many people are struggling with their budgets today. They want to grow a garden. Why not use your own urine for your fertilizer? My garden was amazing when I did that.
Organic nitrogen.
I'm reading the comments and everybody's like, yes, this helped me. And one girl says, I like red wine.
That's great.
Who doesn't?
That's funny. I love it.
Awesome.
Great. Love
Shemane,
that.
Shemane, what are your favorite topics when you have your show? Say you had one of us on your show, your private show. What are some of your favorite topics? What do you want to cover this year in 2024?
2024. So I feel incredibly blessed to have a show on Real America's Voice, to have a platform where I have absolute freedom of speech. They have never said, don't say this, don't say that. Any of my guests can talk about anything. So I created a show where I have 4 different guests in 1 hour. It's a short form interview, but I've interviewed everybody from Kirk Cameron to Charlie Kirk to everybody in between. And I talk about faith and freedom and health and spiritual warfare. I'm going to be doing a spiritual warfare online program coming early 2024. Also, I'm going to be doing a free workshop, a Reset 24 workshop. So many people have asked me, I'm writing a book right now. I'm just finishing up. It should be out in the fall of next year. It's going to be a 40-day health devotional, not just for women. But that's my passion now. I feel like my job, and I think all of our jobs, our goal here is to spread the gospel. And for whatever it's worth, I've had 40 plus years in the health and fitness industry. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've learned about, look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I don't eat perfect. And I'm going to tell you that 80% of what I eat is clean. 20% is fairly clean. I like Fritos. I like red wine. I think life is meant to be worth living, but on those days, those moments, those weeks where I need to get reset, I go all in. But I see so many people, if you travel to other countries, there is a pandemic here in the United States. 70% of us are overweight. And I will say that at 61, I may weigh the same, but my body isn't the same. Things have changed. So I have a couple of tips and tricks that I use to weigh the same and to try and keep aligned with my health. Because when you lose your health, what can you do? When you have a cold or flu, you can't do anything. Not a thing. It's a chore to take your dog for a walk, right? Or to do the dishes or to cook dinner, whatever it is. So I will not, I'm going to try and put my health first. And I want to share that with other people so that they can be strong and healthy and help other people as well. So to answer your question, Spencer, faith, health, and freedom.
Faith, health, and freedom. Got it. Good.
We will look forward to that.
Well, thank you. And maybe I'll do more lives here.
I think you should.
Yes.
Yes. That would be wonderful.
Shemane, it's funny. I kind of missed how, I can't remember if it was you or me that we started following each other or how we ended up messaging, but what was the first thing you remember that caught your eye? Something that I was ranting about in my truck or a post? Can you think of whatever it was that caught your eye?
Your honesty. And you talked about the Second Amendment, and most people are afraid to talk about it. And I really like that you were bold and brave, and we need more of that. So I don't know if I reached out to you or vice versa, but I hope I did message you that I was really.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That's what I heard. That's exactly what you did. You wrote me a message and thanked me for the content that I was sharing.
Yeah.
And that means a lot because I've been ranting in my truck on a loudspeaker since March of 2020, surprisingly. That's when it started. I wonder why. But it's just kind of escalated crazy. Have you ever talked about the state nationals movement and all that stuff? Have you ever talked to any of those people?
No, I haven't.
It's a crazy, it's a wonderful movement and idea where it's all about constitutional law and the origins of our country and the origins of our law. And people are figuring out what birth certificates are. They're figuring out what their social security accounts really are. They're figuring out kind of how the wool's been pulled over our eyes and how we're little corporate fictions and commerce out when we leave. We're not living men and women. And we're always contracting ourselves into a terrible situation that kind of backs us into these corners that bleed into medicine, that bleed into education and indoctrinations, that bleed into our workplaces. And everything will tie together. And like when it comes to someone like you and Ted, I'm like, man, these are the people that I could see taking land patents and land grants, like Mr. Ron Gibson in his book. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Land Patents. I had a 45-minute direct interview with Ron Gibson. He used to teach the miners in Oregon about their land rights for minerals, the mineral rights. And so when it comes to you guys, I'm thinking they advocate everything we want. In order to have health, we have to have agriculture. In order to have agriculture, we have to have land with a quality jurisdiction. So how are we going to have organic food if we're controlled by these entities? You know, our farming is being attacked. And I think we all know, whether it's water rights, any of it. You guys know all about that. And I'm like, I wonder if they have their land patents or land grants or know how to express them. Have you ever heard about those?
Do you know a guy named Jaron Jackson?
I don't know Jaron Jackson.
Okay, so we've been in conversations with him, and I didn't ever hear it mentioned as, what did you call it? State
nationals.
State nationals. So he talks about that as well. You know what they're doing here in Texas? This should be a huge wake-up call.
Texas?
In Texas, yeah, Texas. So we've known this to happen to several whitetail deer breeders. Hunting is a big operation, and you know, people like to go hunting, and that's great. In fact, we have a show. We've had Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild. It's been on different channels. Right now it's on Pursuit Channel 8 times a week. And there are whitetail breeding operations where they will take a genetic, that take one whitetail deer and put it in another ranch, and then animals do what they do, they breed, and then that gene. Well, several whitetail breeders, several that we know, the Texas Parks and Wildlife has gone on, what I'm about to tell you, if you don't know about this, it's going to blow your mind. They've gone onto their property, they have slaughtered their deer, and because of the threat of CWD, chronic wasting disease. Now, you know, let me just ask you this. If I wanted to eat a roadkill, if I was starving, you know, we've got a lot of migrants infiltrating our borders. They could probably eat roadkill, or, they find a dead deer on the side of the road. I don't know. But isn't that your right to do whatever you want, to eat whatever you want? They are slaughtering these deer, and that's our food source. We don't buy meat at the store. We have venison. We have freezers full of venison, and we also provide soup kitchens and lots of different families and churches with venison. And at one point, we actually made jerky and sent it overseas to the military. But it's unbelievable that they think they can come on your property and you get to pay for them to kill all your deer. Is that incredible?
Yeah, it reminds me of, isn't there a massive, I can't remember the organization, or I'm not going to name names. We got to watch defamation these days, but mRNA injecting mass amounts of wildlife, and they're getting it out there. And so that is an intentional, definitely on deer populations, I've heard, but that's a huge thing that's been going on. It's like they're trying to force it upon us. So it reminds me of, let's go back to the origins of the country, of America. How did they control the Indians? The natives were like, fine, and they just followed the buffalo, they followed the herds. So what did the U.S. government, what did the United States government do at that time? they slaughtered over 30 million buffalo because these natives were living nose to tail off of these herds. They could live. They did not need anything else but nature, nature's abundance, clean water, and following these herds. And so what did the United States government do? They slaughtered all the buffalo and cornered them. There's pictures of the United States government piling the bones as high as a building and them standing in front of it like it's a trophy. And they cornered the natives at that point and forced them into their contracts for the reservations. It's what it reminds me of, except now we have like technologies like you're describing in jurisdictions that don't make any sense and have nothing to do with patriotism or the Constitution or any of that. It's all commercial in nature, and it's all de facto government nonsense. I digress.
That kills me. I have a love for the buffalo. Matter of fact, I went on a 21-day water fast back, oh my God, I don't remember when it was, but at the end of my fast, I had a vision of owning a buffalo ranch so that people could come and humanely hunt there. I wanted like 500 acres. And what happened to the buffalo was so sick and saddening to me.
Yeah, I've heard from some of these ranch owners where they came and slaughtered hundreds of whitetail, some which our friends actually, they adopted a few pets. They killed them all. And I've heard from them that the powers that be who did this killing, this slaughtering, have had to seek, therapy for what they had to do. It blows my mind, but it's the same. You know what, Spencer? Now that you say that, it's the same thing, isn't it? They're going after our food source.
Yeah, in a positive light, that's why I bring up land patents. And it's like I did all this freedom stuff. I learned my birth certificate. I learned my social security account. I learned the banking. I learned the laws was upside down. And at the end of the day, it's like, man, what can I control if everything is inside out and upside down and everything's an inverted lie? Oh, we have to have our land held in trust. I heard you mention a 501c3 earlier. And Mary B., you wrote me a private message once on a 508c1a, which is a
most people don't know what that is.
It's a private common law ecclesiastical trust that you can still get an EIN for. So you could get a bank account and an EIN for a private trust, just like a 501c3, but remove that jurisdiction of the 501c3. And so earlier she was mentioning the 501c3. I'm like, man, I'm hearing foundation. And everything they stand for, we have to have our own lands to do this. At the end of the day, how can we provide for ourselves? If you're not providing for yourself, somebody else is going to provide for you. And we have to be able to jurisdictionally protect our lands, to grow food organically, to, harvest our animals accordingly and do whatever we want. If not, there's going to be corrupt departments of, ag and stuff like that all over that just take control and bushwhack us like they are with the deer you're talking about in Texas. So I digress.
The sad thing is, it's very hard to find information about the 508. You have to be in the know of people who know about this, and you can start your own ministry. The ministry owns the house. The ministry owns all your cars. The ministry owns everything. I go clean your house and you give me a donation to my ministry. And this is how many of, I'd imagine, the elite do things. So everybody's lumped into the 501c3s when they should be looking at the 508-1A.
508c1a.
I'm sorry, 508. Yes. I know.
It's a subsection of a 501c3. So a 501c3, you're getting this tax freedom, right? But what happened in 2020? They have jurisdiction over your establishment now. They have jurisdiction over that because of the contract. If you've ever read it in full, they had jurisdiction then if you had a 501c3. A 508c1a is a subsection of a 501c3, a completely different. It's a private common law, ecclesiastical. You have that ministerial status, trust, okay? And you can fill a 508c1a on the IRS website and get an EIN. So if you can get an EIN for a private trust and open an account and accept gifts and donations properly, as we should as free Americans, that is how we're going to have to be free. It's all about jurisdiction. And land patents are a lot farther along. I have mine, from the 1850s. It's all about jurisdiction. The land is different than property. Real estate is different than private property. So Treaty law is way up here. The land patents and the land grants are above the constitutions. Most people don't know that. The natives had treaties on the land. That's why they killed the buffalo. King George had a problem. All these Americans, they wanted to be electors. But in order to elect your representative, you had to own land. We didn't used to vote for presidents and install them like a toilet seat. We used to elect our representatives, but you had to own land. So all of these Americans, these free people, were pretty, they were pretty aggressive and assertive about owning land. So King George had this divine plan. I'm going to take out the natives. The natives had treaties on this land at the time. Treaty law is way up here. Those treaties were above those. So what they did was they forced them to contract out of their treaties. And that's what we do. Like when we go and we get our firearm, we contract out of our unalienable rights due to we're scared, we're coerced, we're indoctrinated, we're tricked into it. And it's all the same system. And that carries over from medicine, all of it. It's education. It's always the same story. But, we're just going to have to figure out jurisdictions. And there's always a jurisdiction for everything, just like during 2020, medically. We had to figure out our jurisdictions, didn't we? That bleeds over into food. It bleeds over into everything.
And then if we have the 508, we can put a cemetery on our property when any of our loved ones die. And there are special privileges for cemeteries. Maybe you know more about that and can speak into it. I'm starting to dig into that as well.
There's a reason why Donald Trump has somebody buried on his golf course. We'll put it that way when it comes to taxes.
Wow.
Really?
Have you ever driven around the rural South, and you find all these old graveyards everywhere? If I get on my motorcycle right now, I do it for fun, and I go look at all the grave sites. The family grave sites were all about this. It's like getting your homestead exemption or your ag exemption. They got huge tax benefits. You can't tax the land once you have your family on it. And so it still exists to this day if you know how to express it, but it's very hard. It's very hard to turn your land. It's very hard to turn real estate into private property at the tax assessor's office. But we can all do it because I've seen it done, and I've met people and I work people that have done it. And have I done it yet? No, because it's like the mafia where I'm at right now, and I'd be the only one. I'd walk in there and someone would tell somebody, and the next thing you know, I'm going to be getting audited or they're going to be taking me out. I want 50 people in my county to go in at the same time and catch them off guard in all open cases to express our land patents accordingly after we publicly published them, properly filed, and did what we had to do to make it a court of record. So it's very, very, very important for us. If we want to be free and do all these things, we have to learn what American jurisdictions really are. The road out there, when a police officer talks to you, he's going to say public roadways. You're driving on the public roadways. Our founding fathers were traveling on the postal roads.
Don't get me started.
The post office is different than the United States Postal Service. The Postal Service is public. It's commercial. That's the jurisdiction that you're not going to win in unless you're playing commerce and monopoly and you have good lawyers and you can spend the money on all that. Now, if you're in the private, that's completely different. That's the United States Post Office. Benjamin Franklin set up our court systems through the post office. The postal rules all still run everything, but it's so hard to do because of the private bar guilds. Sorry, I digress. I could ramble.
No, it's great.
Spenser for president. That's
I saw that too.
Yeah. And then another comment is, and this is why the Kardashians have their own church organization. And then someone mentioned you put a church on your property, start a church as well. So anyway,
I think I'm going to start a ministry.
I think so.
I was looking through my straw man books to show people, if they're just getting started in this, and maybe Shemane, just researching what is a straw man.
Yep.
Yes.
Spencer's going to grab his maybe.
Now it's straw man, right?
Straw man. What is your straw man?
Yeah.
Which is your fictional character. That is why your bills come with all caps. That is your corporate name, not the man woman.
Yeah, I did do some research with this guy that I told you about, Jaron, who said, look at any contract you sign, a document, your name is in all caps. we were bought and paid for. I mean, we apparently.
This is my wheelhouse, Shemane.
Pardon me?
This is my wheelhouse. Proceed.
Oh, no, you proceed. If it's your wheelhouse, you go for it.
I want you instead to talk to Ron Gibson, who wrote this book.
I'm taking notes. Ron Gibson. Okay.
He's also got some YouTube videos.
He is a wonderful ex-Marine. He's the constitutional law professor that, I went live with 2 years ago, that he cannot keep up with the demands. He's the one. So I had a very specific letters patent from the 1850s. This comes from the Bureau of Land Management. There is a raised seal. It's on parchment paper. It's signed by Gretchen Ward, the land law examiner for the Bureau of Land Management for the Eastern States. Franklin Pierce in the 1850s signed this, and it says, these letters to be made patent and blah, 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 fee simple title to assigns and heirs in perpetuity forever. Forever in the law means to the end of the earth. This is what's called lodial title. This is protected. Remember treaty law. This is treaty law. Lodial titles, this was granted from the king. This is up here. This is above constitutional law. This is above what came after these. So I had to create a chain of title back to the 1850s in order to express this, publish. So, when you go and buy a house, you want to get a chain of title done, right? We all do title searches. Mm-hmm. So you have to make a record of every transaction all the way back to the land patent or land grant to have a proper chain of title before you publish it, okay, and express it and make something a court of record. Well, guess what I found out happened in the 1870s in our country? Our land records that were in brick buildings all over the country, because I was working with freedom groups all over, you name it, you name the time zone, we were all learning this at the same time. They were burning land record offices to the ground and taking our lodial titles. What came after the 1870s? Certificate of titles, warranty deeds, warranty, acceptance of a warrant, maritime and admiralty jurisdiction. They got rid of the true titles and they gave the U.S. citizens, they gave them certificates of title that changed the jurisdiction. It's not your land. That's why it's real estate. And Ron Gibson's book walks you through exactly what you have to do. The only problem with the process is that I think is everyday people, you can do this. Make it a court of record. You can properly serve via registered mail, not certified, publicly publish, put it on a bulletin board, put it in your local newspaper, digitally or not, and then you can record at the recorder's office and you've done everything you need to do, okay? And especially if you put this in a trust. Now you just put that level of Kevlar, which is like ministerial status. So now this land patent is in the trust, and the trust owns the land. Well, then what happens is you're going to go to the tax assessor's office, right? They have no idea what you're talking about. Their attorneys don't know what you're talking about. Their attorneys are bar members, British Accreditation Registry. These are pawns for Britain and the private bar guild. We don't know this. We don't know that we can't be free because we hire bar members to represent us in these courtrooms, which are not in favor of us, which we're not going to get into that. But what happens is you have to open your own case a lot of times and express these claims in order to enforce it and make them change your property from real estate to private property. Then you can grow whatever you want. Then they don't have jurisdiction. The only thing that you would lose to there is eminent domain. Eminent domain came from the old days. It's old English. So eminent domain's powerful. Good luck beating that if they want to build a road right through your yard, even if you have a land patent.
Really? Okay. So when I was in real estate class, I mean, that eminent domain, you are powerless, like
unbelievable.
Powerless.
Yep.
I don't know how these people sleep at night. And let me ask you this, Spencer. So when we buy a house or property, how much into the sky do we own?
How much into the sky?
Yeah, like I didn't approve the chemtrails.
You actually own, because I took real estate, you own as far as infinity.
Yeah.
But there are, there's leeways with it. So you can't actually, I mean, like when people buy a house you got the beach in front of you, right? you want to buy that airspace. Maybe there's a little house in front of you. You would want to approach those people and say, can I buy your airspace? Because maybe your house sits behind theirs. You're not directly on the beach. You would own that airspace. But when you buy a piece of property, it's all the way down to the core of the earth to the sky. But things like airlines and all of that have, again, protection.
Well, how do we stop them? And who them is a whole nother story, but go ahead. You, Spencer.
I know where this is going. So I'm the ranter about chemtrails, have for a long time. And in Florida, we've been getting sprayed heavy, just drastic since it's everywhere right now. We all know it. You can't ignore it now. It's just silly. You're going to have that evidence cross-examined in an Article 3 or higher court, or we're all just doing this. There are private entities getting paid big bucks. A guy wrote me a private message and told me he made $110,000 a year in 3 months flying a small private spray plane. 110K, he worked 3 months out of the year, and then he didn't work, flying a small private spray plane for third-party entities, yes, being contracted through this. Hey, Texas, you remember that storm in 2020, that crazy snowstorm?
Yes, the ice storm. Texans, I'm from Michigan originally, so when I first moved here, it was kind of funny because the snow can just dust the ground, and schools closed, businesses closed, everybody's afraid to drive. But Texas is not prepared for it. They don't have the salt trucks. They don't have anything like that. So we had that ice storm, terrible ice storm. Yeah, we have one every year in February pretty much, but go ahead.
So from what I was reading, the headline said 500-year snowstorm, ice storm, if you will. So I'm like, oh, no way. I know exactly what that is. So what they had done is you could now apply for cloud seeding permits in Texas. I looked, the most cloud seeding permits ever in 1 year applied for was just so happened to be that year. You get them through the Department of Agriculture, cloud seeding permits. And if you're just seeding for rain, like a farmer would, you would usually spray silver iodide. Silver iodide's crystallization formation is just like water, guys. You can't tell the difference. So a byproduct of cloud seeding is rain. A byproduct of cloud seeding, when you shouldn't, where you shouldn't, is snow and ice. And so they would take that snow and they would put it on something hot and it would burn brown. That's how we knew we had a compound in there that wasn't just water. And so the 2020 snowstorm that shut things down, shut power down, all kinds of craziness, it was due to seeding, undoubtedly.
This reminds me of what happened during the Vietnam War when they wanted to flood them out. That's exactly what they used.
Agent Orange. Yeah.
And many people are asking, how do we stop it? And I think as long, I had a dream, my awakening happened through a series of dreams 16 years ago. And one of them was, we choose the poison. And I believe that goes with, as long as people are willing to sell their souls to this evil and make money, like Spencer said. But this awakening is happening. And so they have to be running out of workers that are willing to sell out to this for money. That's our hope and that's our prayer. And maybe that's why they're bringing so many people across the border, so that they are running out of people.
That is where the spiritual side is coming in.
There have to be people like a friend of mine, Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers, who said, I'm not going to make my guys take I don't know what you want to call it, but you know what I'm talking about.
We do this. We just symbol it.
Yeah.
Jibby jab.
The Jimmy Jab. Yeah.
Yeah.
He refused to. And he got called in and got disciplined. And he said, I'm not going to make it. It's informed consent. They need to know what's in there. I'm going to tell them to do their own research, which is, those people like Pete Chambers are few and far between. But I think what you're saying too is that there are more people who are waking up, more people who want to do something. Okay, what are the steps? We need to have town hall meetings in the form of this, where we outline steps and we create a ministry, so to speak, and people can do it. One of the things I have been blessed enough to be in conversation with President Trump a few times. And he has, I'll never forget, it was April of 2022. And he said, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And just like I said at the beginning, when baby is pushed into a corner, that's when she comes out fighting. But when people can still, you go to the grocery store, it's packed. I went to the mall the other day. Ted's like, why did you go to the mall? Well, there's a guy that does a really good massage, and it's $1 a minute. So I do that. And it was packed. So if you're still finding a way to make ends meet, if you're still fairly comfortable, you still have a car. People are buying new cars because they can put it on loan, and they're still, it's Christmas time. They're going to buy presents and things like that. Until you're really uncomfortable and you're put into a corner, you're not going to change.
I agree. I think there's a level of consent that across the masses. So when we talk about a spiritual battle, it's mentioned all the time now. There is a mental, physical, and spiritual going on at all times, both sides, any side of the fence in any direction. But when it comes to consent and that topic, guys, I do believe the more people that are outspoken about it in the masses, and like she's saying, if you're town hall, have you ever heard one politician ever mention chemtrails? One.
We bring this up with they go, what are you talking about? Many people don't know about it. And one thing that Ted talks about too is write those letters, have a not a confrontation, but a conversation with your local politicians. And the other thing I was going to say that President Trump recommended, it's got to start locally. We may not be able to figure out what's going on with, I don't know if you could say elections. If you could talk about those kinds of things on a national level, but we sure can watch it locally.
Yep.
I agree. I always say it begins with me. And so if I can change me and I can step out and help others see this, we all have to do our part within our communities. Yeah.
And that's what I think our programs here are about raising awareness. I mean, when I was talking about chemtrails and when I was married at the time, I told my husband, I'm like, those are chemtrails. He's like, that's crazy. I'm like, until one day he saw it stop spraying and then spatter and then start back up. I said, tell me, how does a contrail do that?
Right. Right.
So
I did those. I posted that the other day. My dog recently had surgery and I was out taking her for a walk. I think it was Saturday. And it was a beautiful morning. And I was just going to post about my dog. And I look up, there is a blatant chemtrail. I mean, it could. And I posted that. 99% of the people mentioned, yes, that's what it is. And they're having it in their areas too. There'd be a couple of people here and there who go, no, it's a contrail. No, it's condensation. You know, it's interesting. But the Bible says, people have eyes and ears, but not everybody can see and hear.
Right. That's right. Yes, there is actually someone in the room who doesn't believe in chemtrails right now, and I'm actually glad you're here. And just because you don't see it, I'm not going to kick you out or block you. I want this to be a place that everyone learns and grows. So welcome, and as long as you're respectful, you'll remain in this room.
Hey, I think that's great because they can go to my page now, and I've got plenty of chemtrail videos where I explain it in detail and show you rainbow-colored clouds that aren't sundogs. It's not just prisms working. We have the oil residue. Did you guys hear my one on the trampolines in the screen? I called the biggest trampoline company, one of them in the country, and I asked them, I said, how long are these mats supposed to last? They were like 5 years. And I'm thinking, well, I bought mine less than a year ago and it's already deteriorating. They're like, well, that shouldn't be happening. What kind of chemicals have you put on it? I said, none. I didn't wash my trampoline out in the yard. And, you know, we have full sun and heavy spray. I truly believe my dang trampoline. And when I told them that on the phone, they're like, we're going to send you a new one for both of your, even your little one. They're like, let's not talk about this. We're so sorry. We're going to look into this. And they just do not want to talk about it because, you know, California, Florida, where they sell these trampolines, people don't realize that that, you have your streaks, they disperse, they flatten out. It's a sheet over the whole top of the sky, and then that whole sheet comes down, right? And then if you have these grassy areas with fog, it will sit in that fog heavy. So if you park your vehicle in the middle of that fog, or you have anything metal out there, it is going to rust 10 times faster. Usually because of the type, it depends on the type. So there's so many different types of this stuff. But how do we fight against it? I think that's the most important part. We can talk about oil slicks. People that don't believe in them, they literally spray in front of hurricanes. It's called oil slicks. They spray oil over the ocean, and it hits the ocean, and it creates a layer. And I've done videos on these, full videos of these. Why are they doing that? They're choking out the storm to steer it. They spray oil over the oceans to choke the storm out, to steer it. Again, and I have all the proof if you guys need to see it, from NASA's involved in hurricane modification. That's pretty cool. NDAA, they're all involved. Oh, you guys got to look at NOAA. Have you guys seen NOAA, my post on NOAA? Look at the emblem upside down. It's Noah's Ark.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool.
Have you guys seen the new movie, Leave the World Behind?
I didn't watch it, but I watched your post.
Yeah.
No, I don't want. I'm not
It's
sure.
almost funny at this point. It's so blatant. The kid has a shirt on that says obey, and the other one has a shirt, the other girl has a shirt on that says NASA. There is symbolism everywhere. It's so blatant. And I had somebody say, oh, I thought it was a good movie. I'm like, really? I only watched it and we fast forwarded. We're like, if it wasn't Julia Roberts, which I thought she was a great actress.
I love her.
But if it wasn't her and who was the guy? Ethan Hawke. It's not a great film. There's just such blatant symbolism. Many people believe that they're showing us, they're telling us what they're going to do.
Or they're trying to get us to manifest it. We do their work for them. We do the dirty work for them. As long as they put it in media and there's someone absorbing that message, then yeah.
What we think about, we bring about. I mean, and so what they're doing is feeding that to the mass media and saying, everybody going, oh, look, this is going to happen. You're coming into agreement. Does the scripture not say, speak those things into existence, speak those things which are not? And these things are not yet, but people are speaking it into existence. I've even shifted because I've done a lot of conspiracy theory. That's how I started out 3 years ago on TikTok, but I've sort of moved away from that to focus more on the positive, little by little pulling away from that, because we are instilling that in people's minds. They're thinking that. And so the collective needs to think. And people talk about timelines. They're like, I'm not on that timeline. And I say, oh, you go to the grocery store. Are you paying twice for what you were paying before? Yeah. But the difference about timelines are people, which way they go in their mind. If there's situations like, prices are high, I think, oh, I'm going to be abundant, right? The price might be high, but there's plenty enough, right? There's enough. So we have to not think in poverty mindsets, but yeah, exactly what they're doing is programming the masses. And I had several of my followers ask, did you watch it? And I'm like, no, I don't think I really need to. I don't want to expose myself to the frequencies. And we all know it's the same story. There's actually another movie coming out in April called Civil War. And guess what it's about, which she might be interested in. It's about Texas succeeding, which I do believe is going to happen. And this sparks a civil war. And so it's like Texas and another state up against the government. So the government's going to be going after. Oh, I don't know if you heard the conversation.
I like that.
We have code words here: pokey poke, cuckoo 19, government. So the Civil War movie that's coming out in April is like, the next saga to this whole movie, and people are being programmed.
I really believe the more we wake up. So say this movie, I can almost guarantee that the vast majority of people just 4 years ago would have watched it and not talked about it as drastically as we are now. But when you wake up, this stuff looks like a bad sitcom. You see the symbolism everywhere. You're like, how did I used to watch this crap? I think the quality is similar, but we are waking up and noticing all the things that we're learning. We're like, oh, that's garbage. They're doing that's not even hidden anymore. Well, maybe it's because you're awake. And when it comes to Texas, Texas is special. The Republic of Texas, have you guys heard of the Republic of Texas?
Yes.
It's an active republic that had their own common law courts just recently, still actively going. I had private dinners with David Lester Straight. I know a lot of people have strayed away from him. Bonnie went to prison for taking out those bad judges and sheriffs that were involved in, the little moving of the little people. Those are some extremely advanced law professors. They moved to Texas. They're in with the Republic of Texas. Republic of Texas was infiltrated. Crazy stuff was going on. But when it comes to Texas, they know law and they know the right to bear arms. And they have the most free American living people of anywhere in the country still. And that's in Texas because the Republic is still active and they have their own courts. And you have to have your own court system or you're not free. You're going to end up in administrative courts, which is all banking, which is where we get ourselves caught up. And, we're just disconnected from real American patriotism. We are mentally and on the outside, and we think we are, and we talk about it, and we repeat this stuff. But when your own president and the one that you want to vote for keeps saying the word democracy and to the republic for which it stands, why do we keep saying democracy, a threat to our democracy, a threat to our democracy? You hear the media, you'll hear Donald Trump, democracy, democracy, democracy. When Donald Trump says democracy, he's talking about the corporation of the United States. I don't mind having him as the president of our corporation. Do you see what I'm saying? But when he speaks, I want to know if we're talking about the republic or the corporation. And there's been things with our military, all the crazy stuff with the flags. Sometimes you'll see the gold banner on the flags behind him. Sometimes you won't. It's a big deal if you're in a courtroom with gold fringe around the flag or not.
Maritime law.
Yeah, maritime, admiralty jurisdiction. It's all about jurisdiction, what is going on. And I want to throw something about Texas that I just remembered when it came to David Straight. We went to go visit them in Texas, and there were steakhouses. Have you ever heard of PMAs, private member associations? So PMAs are basically how the Amish have been run and shot for a while. PMAs are just like that private common law ecclesiastical trust, very similar. Hobby Lobby used to be ran as a PMA. But in Texas, there's these steakhouses, and there's like all these dry counties, right? But you would go to this steakhouse and you could sign up to be part of their PMA, and you could be next to a table. You're drinking a margarita, you're having a margarita in a dry county, and it's completely legal and lawful because they have a proper PMA set up, and you sign up to be a member in that establishment. So when I was going to be a police officer at one point in my life, I was doing a ride-along, and we couldn't go into the Elks Lodge or what do they call it? The Moose Lodge. We couldn't go in there. And I'm like, what do you mean we can't go in there? I go in there all the time with my dad. He goes, say they got the cheapest drinks in town. He goes, no, it's a private establishment. I go, what do you mean it's a private establishment? You just kicked in the door to someone's home. He goes, nah, you can't. They got a keypad on the door. And I thought about it. I'm like, oh, you have to be a member to get in the door and have signed with that PMA. That's why there's a keypad out front. And guess what? My dad went there because why? They had the cheapest drinks in town. Ted mentioned this earlier. Why did they have the cheapest drinks in town? Because they didn't have to have a license to sell their drinks. Because it was a private member association and they had their bases covered in that establishment. PMAs, 508c1as. Texas is really funny with the Republic of Texas and the old school militiamen. They're crazy. I stay far away from it because I had too many eyes on me at one time, and not me, but like our groups. And it was just uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable going to my P.O. box wondering if the letter I sent to, someone that's sending me a bill that I don't owe. And if I was doing a lot of stuff with debt discharge, learning banking. I got my truck for free with my signature. $34,000.
And when you got those bills, you wrote an affidavit, right?
Registered mail as a living man, a soul possessing being with red pen. I even put my thumbprint on there to make sure they knew I wasn't
Never sign stuff in black ink, people.
There's so much to it. Like, I don't even want to get into that too much, but yes, it is possible. I was learning so much law and so much about it. I got into debt discharge. I did get my truck paid for free because I proved they never gave me a loan. They never give you a loan, everybody. When you walked into a bank, the bank didn't loan you their money or their line of credit. You'll probably hear all about that tonight, Mary B. You provide the funds. When you walk into a bank, you have a Social Security account. When pen hits paper, you funded that loan. You are the signatory officer for your Social Security account. You created the credit. That is the security that gets sent to the Department of Treasury. They send it back. The bank puts it on a private credit side of a ledger, and they give you debits. Our money is debt, guys. A warehouse receipt. Good job. Our money is debt. Our money is debt. So all of this ties in, Shemane. It all ties in.
Oh,
So,
it really does. And, the process that I'm here, and I think maybe you guys are too, is that when you have, going back to health, when you have a health scare, for me, doctors told me that, well, I don't know, you should be healthy. I had one doctor saying that maybe I was too healthy. Maybe I was eating, too many salads and working out too much, and maybe I should go eat fast food. When I couldn't get an answer, I became my own investigative sleuth. And I think that's what's going on with all of these areas that you guys are talking about. When something doesn't make sense, you want to investigate, because there's got to be a different way. But we've been trained, Spencer, to be the good little boys and girls and to be seen and not heard from.
I agree. I get the strangest hugs from veterans when I have honest, deep conversations with them about war. And every once in a while it happens, probably like once every month or 2 months, a veteran will talk to me. And I know you guys are big with veterans. PTSD, I mean, their souls are in conflict because of what they had to do for some nonsense reason. We don't need to be there. We need those soldiers here protecting our lands and being in our city council. We need those types of men and women in actually fighting for freedom. All wars are bankers' wars. And when I explain to them that it's about private central banking and all these interests for resources and the controlling of resources, and it's like, get your butt where you need to be. Or if, there's a lot of stuff that goes on out there about Donald Trump and the commander in chief. I'm not getting into all that until it can be proven, even though I love the idea of it. At the same time, I get the biggest hugs from them when they say, you understand. You understand. They're like, I'm not going to let my kids go to those unnecessary wars, which are psyops. They're engineered. They're horrible situations that we don't belong in. It's all propaganda. It's all, engineering and social control, false flag attacks, all that stuff. The awareness, just like the movies, the awareness, even with our military, when we praise them, we need to tell them, we're never going to send you back like that again. We're never doing that to you guys again. And our new kids, we're never doing that to you guys again. And we need to talk like that as people. This is why we were there. This is the real reason why we were there. Get rid of the propaganda that they were told and taught, because that is why we will keep going. That is what perpetrates this. And so when it comes to the vets, I have the biggest hugs now when I teach them. It's a phenomenal thing to listen to, you guys, on YouTube. All wars are bankers' wars, and it's all about private central banking. You guys will absolutely love it. And any military member that, is struggling with understanding, why, whatever that stuff is, show them that. And a famous Marine, Smedley Butler, is all in this. All wars are bankers' wars. Kind of little, what do you call it? Not a documentary, but it's a audio file. It's on YouTube. It's phenomenal. So I digress.
I love this, and I think that we should plan for 2024 some roundtables where we teach one subject at a time, because we have a lot of followers on here right now that they're asking, how do I learn this? How do we begin? And, I know Spencer and we've been talking for a while about doing something more permanent. I know Mary's on board. So we got to keep this going for this group, for our followers. Yes. Important topic.
Big rabbit hole. You start down one little area, and then you start to learn about chemtrails, and then you learn about your food, and then you learn about spirituality. And before you know it, you realize all these things are connected, because we have been lied to about everything.
We have been lied to, and the war that breaks my heart, because all of the wars. We have friends like Johnny Joey Jones lost both of his legs. And I don't know if you heard before, but I wrote about it in my book. We went to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, and Ted would put a gown on and, go talk to these guys that just lost their limbs and burned head to toe. And I stood outside one of the doors with the mom, whose 19-year-old son was burned 80% of his body. And I just said, is there anything you need? What can I can't do anything, but what can I do? And long story short, we built a patio at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. But my point is, seeing what they have gone through, these families, people should be ashamed of themselves for putting our young men and women through this. It's despicable.
Right.
Sorry.
No, yeah. And I think we all learned when we realized we weren't going into any new wars at a specific time. We learned that it's like, oh, I guess we really don't have to do this. Well, looky there, fancy that. I think that kind of needs to be the new norm, or the new cool, if you will.
Stop supporting it. So now that we're awake, nobody should be entering our military. We know what it's about now. So we have to stand up to it. And that's where I say it begins with me. It has to begin with me. And then we teach, and we're gonna have to find practical ways to step away from the evil that's been going. As soon as we contract or participate, then we're supporting it.
The contracts are so powerful. It's like, we watched all of our men and women that were saying no. You have all these people that say you have, who knows the percentage, with just phenomenal intentions, phenomenal people, veteran soldiers, whatever, that were saying no. They didn't know what to do. They lost everything. The ones that stuck it out, wrote it out, a lot of them lost everything. And that carries over, though. Like, we can say that about anybody, honestly. Like, I can go think about doctors. These nurses, they are pinned in a corner because of their contracts, because of their job, because of providing for their family. And it's all the same stuff, guys. So it's like, we should categorize, like, tonight it's going to be about this. Tomorrow it's going to be about medical. Then it's going to be about vets, and all wars are bankers' wars. Or, war is unnecessary. We don't have to do this. Or this is how we establish our court systems. This is how we establish our local cities to get this going. Just have nights and categories, because like, we could ramble about all these things and bounce like this, like we are. And it's like, so much of it is over so many people's heads. But as long as we can articulate it in layman's terms and do what we're doing right now, this awareness, think about how many viewers you have. Your viewers are completely different than mine, Mary B. Jesse L., your viewers are completely different than mine, and so are yours. All of our viewers are now going to go follow Shemane, and it's like, this is just a snowball. And all of these ideas are seeds, so it's like, we're just seed planters. Let's go, guys. We're sowing seeds.
You and I don't so much have a niche. I talk about everything. I talk about the esoteric. I talk about spirituality. I talk about religion. I talk about politics. I talk about health, healing, control. I mean, I cover everything. People are like, what are you about? I'm like, I'm about anything that can help you be free. So if it's under there, yeah, maybe our first topic ought to be about people understanding we need to break out of fear and talk about the First Amendment. And that if you do not use your voice, silence is compliance. And no matter how scary that is. Me, I didn't take it. I walked away from a very good paying job. I used to work at an elite golf course for the rich and famous. I mean, people like Mark Wahlberg, all those people, Stevie Nicks would come. Like, I was around very influential people, and there was that part in my spirit said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Now, there might have been some other nefarious things going on, because you know how outspoken I am. My general manager didn't like me. The owners of it loved me. Incredibly wealthy people loved me, but I had to walk away. How many people out of fear couldn't say, I can't afford to lose my job, but they didn't trust God to open up a door and provide other avenues. And look, I was doing TikTok. It almost became like a full-time job, and it doesn't pay really great, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it isn't about the money. I believe Spirit provides what we need. If we follow our heart, if we do what we're being called to do, step out in faith, He opens doors you would have never expected. And so fear is a big thing that people are going to have to overcome. They have to listen to their intuition and their conscience, because at the end of the day, that's what you're accountable to.
Absolutely. Well, I love everything that you guys have said. I'm on board. If you ever want to do, certain nights of the week talk about health and talk about law stuff, legal stuff, and yeah, I'm all in. And the amendments.
Are we all connected? So I believe I have all of you guys on Instagram, and now I have all of you guys. I'll probably have Shemane on TikTok now. I do have a Facebook, but I don't use it. That's my local people, and they look at me like I have 5 heads still, since like I'm still the town loon. but they kind of know I've been right since day one. And, people are starting to approach me again, but it was intimidating when I was very vocal about all this stuff that we're talking about. And so my Facebook I don't have a big following or anything there, but I can talk to you guys there. I've got it all on my phone, TikTok, Instagram. I do have a Telegram. I don't get on anymore. It was like an echo chamber. I'm on these that maybe we don't believe in because there's more people. You can wake up so many more people on the silly sites. I call it silly site, like a TikTok or an Instagram. There's just more people there. I reach so many more people on TikTok and Instagram than Facebook than I ever did or think I could on Facebook. It's just where I was flowing. So wherever you guys are, reach out anytime. Any of you can text me anytime, the matriarchs. I'm like always drawn to you gals.
That's so sweet.
Spencer, and TikTok is my main place. I am growing on Instagram now. I haven't been live on Instagram. I will probably never be on Facebook, and I got banned permanently on Twitter when President Trump did that day. And I just got back on under this name, but I am not a fan since being, permanently banned. So anyway, I will remain on this platform. I am doing a switch over to Rumble right now. I hear there's no censoring over there.
Yeah, I'm on Rumble.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I'm a little bit on Facebook and Instagram, banned on Twitter. YouTube, I don't know what's going on with that. I have like 10 followers. I still put out a lot of the same content, but I would love to start doing TikTok if they'll have me. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have this connection, and so grateful, Spencer, that you invited me to be here. Thank you so much.
You just have to learn the code words so you don't talk about apricot little thingies and you say the big C and you say goobermint or pokey poke. But we've learned code language here, and it's so funny. I rarely get somebody who goes, "What's this?" I have to explain it once at a time. We're like, for me.
Central time, Shemane, Central time.
Yes.
Mary B.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What's your time zone?
My time zone? I am Central time zone.
Central.
I'm the California girl.
We're all over the place, guys. I'm in Florida. So anytime that's a good time, I would love to, I can already tell you, look at you guys. You're the matriarchs. I would do a live like this anytime. Any one of you, again, just message me and we'll do it. Say the topic. You want to talk about whatever. If we want to talk about Ron Gibson's book, land patents, Mary B's, your 508c1As, your PMAs, that stuff, your straw man, what's going on with the state national movement? Is it worth it? Is it a psyop? All this stuff. I'll cover anything. So I'm trying to close, but anything you guys want, I'm here for.
So, Shemane, I would like to have a live with you, going over your, I want to go back to your mold experience and your protocol. I know my followers would love to know what your protocol was. I really relate to a comment that you made about how you feel like you just have your head above the water most of the time with your keeping balance. I feel the same way often with my candida. I feel like I could just do one bad meal and I go back underwater. And so that would be a wonderful live that I know my followers would appreciate.
I love all these topics.
Yes.
I can talk all day long about mold and then some. And my protocol might be different from other people's, but every human being, we're all different. Yeah. We all have different environments. We all have different genetic makeups. So, and we're all exposed to different things, despite where we're at in our lives, but in our environment as well. We all have different stressors. Emotions play a big role. Our age plays a big role. Genetics obviously plays a big role. So I'd love to talk to you about that. I can talk all day long about it.
We'll look forward to that. And I could talk about that all day as well. It's just it's something that many relate to right now. It is a chronic problem.
I see Matthew Rife.
Yeah,
I will Matthew Rife for Rife machines. I will trade a Rife machine if Shemane's husband Ted will sign my guitar.
And Matthew will join us live anytime. He's been live with me, and yeah, he's doing some great work.
Oh, I just have been discovering that, and I want to find out more. I would love to talk to him too.
Wonderful.
See how this works, guys?
So you have a guitar that you want signed, right? I know somebody that could do that.
Yes. Wonderful, Spencer.
I just want to say for those who are following, I am mainly here on TikTok. This seems to be the platform I love the best. I find Instagram difficult and cumbersome, although Spencer made me sign back up. So I thought this would happen there, even though I promised not to patronize Efferberg. But I am on there, and I have YouTube and Clapper. Just Be Free with Mary B is an absolute backup. I don't like posting on any of those either, but if this ever goes down, I tell them to go there so they know where to find me.
I think that's important that you spread out. My show on Real America's Voice allows me 100% First Amendment freedom of speech. All my guests, freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want. That goes out to Rumble. It's also posted on Rumble. I'm a little bit on Facebook. Look for the blue check, and Instagram. And I'm going to start doing more videos here.
Yay!
Right. All
Shemane,
right, so
So I wanted to tell you, Matthew Rife said, deal, I'll drive the Rife machine to you, and he'll bring his guitar. So there's
We need a video of this. We
Done.
need a video of this.
yes. And Matthew is, yeah, he'll keep his word. That's amazing. Thank you, Matthew.
we can cover the 5th generation cellular technology. I love covering that one. I sent a video to, I know you've seen it, and I think I sent it to Shemane, but it plays a huge role in the weather modification right now, guys. So that's another category we didn't bring up. We got to be careful with the term and
Don't
the
get me
word.
started. Don't get me started on that.
All right, good. Were we closing?
Before we do, I just wanted to thank Spencer for introducing us to Shemane. And I just want to thank you, Jazeel. I send so many people, if you're somebody here who's listening and you are struggling with your health, she just has so many people who are on her platform and bringing us holistic opportunities to do things differently. And I can't recommend her enough to anyone who's following me or watching me. She has so much. I mean, I'm without words. You're just special, Jazeel, and what you are doing for people and bringing awareness to holistic and the health issues that people are facing with all the guests that you have on. I'm stumbling over my words. I just absolutely love you.
Yeah.
I love you as well, and I feel it's an honor to just be in all three of your presence today. So this has been nothing but a blessing.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. Thank you, Spencer, for connecting me.
Sure. Let's do it again, guys. It was a pleasure.
We will.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day. Bye-bye.